I mean, I know their GDP is something like $25 billion a year. And if they're stealing $1 to $2 billion a year, like this is a huge material impact to how much money their entire country has. Yes, the insecurity of blockchain protocols is funding nukes in North Korea.
Before we dive into the show, I want to share a bit about Altitude. Altitude is a global business account built on stablecoins, but fully connected to traditional fiat workflows. You get local banking details, international transfers, corporate cards, and free on and off ramps. For CFOs, stablecoins made payments faster, but slowed down everything else. Altitude changes this with invoicing, bill pay, 5% APY, and accounting integrations, all tied to your stablecoin treasury. I first met the team behind Altitude in 2021, and they were working on their first product, Squads Multisig. Fast forward to today, and Squads has become the default multisig on Solana, securing over $15 billion of value for over 450 teams. The team has brought the same level of rigor and thoughtfulness to Altitude, and I encourage all listeners to check it out. You can learn more in our show description below. Dan, thank you for taking the time and coming today. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to chat about the entire Trail of Bits story from the early days to what it is today. And I think a lot of listeners know about Trail of Bits. They've heard about you guys. Some of them have probably used you. But for those that aren't familiar, like, what are you guys today? Obviously, it's security, but what is the breadth and depth of the stuff that you guys actually do?
So Trail of Bits is a research lab that combines really high-end consulting with genuine research and tool building. We were founded to make fundamental progress in software security. And today we have services across government research, across software engineering and security tool building, as well as our consulting practice that most people in the blockchain industry probably know. We do work in application security, cryptography, blockchain security, AI. We work on hard problems for tech, defense, and finance companies primarily. And it's really just an all-inclusive place. Like, if you have a problem with software security, then Trail of Bits probably has an answer for it.
Got it. And blockchain, you mentioned, is one component of the company. Like, how long have you guys been working on blockchain stuff? And I guess, how long has the company been around?
So Trail of Bits was founded back in 2012, way before blockchain was ever a thing. I think a lot of people in the blockchain industry think like, oh, Trail of Bits, they obviously named it because they're doing blockchain stuff, right? And that's what the majority of our public reports are about, because blockchain people are radically transparent. So you could be easily fooled and think that's the majority of the company,
right,
but it's actually only about 20% of what we do. The way we got started is a fun story. My partner, Alex, his wife, Amber, worked at JP Morgan on like startup within a startup doing blockchain stuff for them, and kept telling us year after year, like, hey, this is going to be a big deal. It's Ethereum thing. It's brand new. It's programmable money. You know, you can manage state. It's so much different than just value transfer with Bitcoin. Like, you guys should get into it. And eventually, she and Alex convinced the rest of us to buy into the DAO.
Oh, wow.
So we all bought DAO tokens, and then we all got robbed. And it was this really funny light bulb moment when we were like, oh my God, did another hacker just steal money from us? Like, what are we going to do about this? And we all looked at each other like, we're going to make money. So we started consulting with other blockchain industry people right around that time. There was a guy, Rick, that introduced us to some of our first clients in the blockchain industry. And we brought all of our research tools to bear on this problem and started building all the first fundamental foundational tools that the industry had. And a lot of them actually came from our government research. We were using like government-sponsored hacking tools to help secure Ethereum in 2017. So that's where all this stuff came from. And we've just been having fun ever since.
So you guys were personal victims of hackers, which
I lost $100, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I think all of us put in $100. So we lost, it was, I think 3 of us at the time, we all lost $300. I remember when we found out, we were in Prospect Park and somebody texted us and we were all like frantically looking at our phones like, holy, like, did this actually happen?
Must have been, again, terrible event when it happened, but in some ways must have been like a little bit exciting in the sense that sort of there's like interesting problems to tackle. Like, there's adversaries to fight against, like, from that lens.
Yeah, no, I think the blockchain industry is really unique because there is an actual immediate risk of failure. Like, I'd call it FAFO. They like you
Huge honeypot.
It's not just a huge honeypot. Like when you're in the tech industry and you get hacked, the consequences are disconnected from the hack. Like they usually trickle in over weeks or months or even years. And a lot of it is like the risk gets transferred. Like you pay somebody for credit card monitoring and your legal team takes care of it. And the industry doesn't really hold you accountable because your data is still at that company. Like I could still log into Dropbox, so I could still download my data. I don't care if they lost some of their marketing information. Like, what does that actually matter? And you find this in the entire tech industry that when people get hacked, there is an immediate drop in their stock price, and then it rockets back up 3 months later. 3 months is the maximum amount of time that people have memory of these things. It's sort of why I kicked myself really hard for not buying CrowdStrike stock 2 summers ago. But in the blockchain industry, when you get hacked, people find out about it on Twitter in real time. And the consequences are that your company's over. And that drives a lot more interesting conversations from blockchain companies.
Right.
And it makes it a perfect environment for Trailbits to succeed because we're trying to sell people on perfection. Like, I don't really care about vulnerability mitigation. I feel like, side note, the security industry is a really fun industry because we sell people all these services and we don't actually fix any problems, right? It's like, it's fantastic. But for blockchain people, you have to fix the problems. And they know they have to fix the problems. And they're desperate to find people who can live up to the ideal of, yes, we can fix the problem. And for an environment like that, Trail of Bits thrives. So that's why I love working on blockchain projects.
No, super interesting. And yeah, lots to dive into, which I'm super excited about. But I want to take a zoom back like a few decades and go back to your childhood and upbringing, because I think that's where all of this starts. I guess, yeah, just tell me about where your interest in security and in hacking began.
So I went to a public school in Long Island. I went to Mineola Public High School. And I was a smart, nerdy kid. Like I went to the John Hopkins Center for Talented Youth program.
So did I, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. What classes did you take?
I think I took like biology.
Okay.
I think I was like 12 or 13. And this was at not at John. I think I did a summer at Johns Hopkins, and I did a summer in Dickinson College.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
great. Yeah, I did it for 4 summers, and I took all computer science courses.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, and I took algebra. I took self-paced algebra. And every single time I took one of these courses, I came back to my high school, and they didn't accommodate me at all. Like I took the entirety of Algebra 1 in 3 weeks by myself by reading a textbook over a summer. I came back, and I'm like, great, I can take calc, I can take algebra 2, I can do like something more advanced. Yeah. And they're like, no, you're going to take algebra 1. I'm like, oh, okay. So I did that for nothing. And then the same thing happened with computer science. The same thing happened with every class after that. So I was just getting really frustrated as a kid because I wanted to use these skills that I had. And I was getting pretty resentful over the administration, the teachers, like the help that I was getting. And at the same time, I just found it, I like to show up and do unexpected things. So, kids want to pull pranks and stuff. They want to mess with their teachers. So I had all this knowledge. I had all this like pent up, I wouldn't call it anger, but just like energy. And I wanted to have a little bit of fun with it. So I started having some fun with it. I got my first taste when I just guessed the password to the school. And every single computer had the same one. The password was Mineola. Okay. And then the like strength of the reaction from that is what told me like, oh man, I'm onto something. Like this gave me a bunch of dopamine. I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah. So it escalated until like, I got the principal's email password. I got the Windows domain admin password, and I used stuff like PW dump, and I figured out how to do wireless hacking. I got like a junk laptop, and I put a Orinoco Gold card in it with like hacked firmware in order to get raw packets out of the sky, out of the internet. So I kept doing that stuff, and then eventually the school wanted to come down hard on me, right? And they created all these new rules when I was in 11th grade. That like I had to sign away a bunch of my privacy, and they were going to spy on all my activity, and They wanted to like institute all these sorts of punishments if I did things that were wrong. And they gave me this form to sign that told me all of this. And I'm like, I go to a public school. You have to give me all the same access to everything that every other student has. Like I pay taxes and that's
civil
enough.
rights. Yeah.
Yeah. And I refused to sign it. So they wouldn't let me have access to a computer at all for my last 2 years of high school.
Oh, wow.
I was furious. I went to the ACLU at the time and I'm like, can you help me with this? This is completely not legal. I got no help at all. I couldn't even get a competent like legal person to like look at what I was saying. And it really like soured my perspective on the ACLU for the rest of my life. But yeah, so like I that's kind of how I got started is completely did it on my own. Really did it to have a little bit of fun. Did it so that I could play Need for Speed 3 in the computer lab during my off periods, which I couldn't do without the admin password for the computers. So that's kind of how it started.
And were there peers of yours, whether it was like in person or online, that you were sort of learning from, chatting about, or was this really something that you were sort of mostly doing on your own and self-teaching in a way?
So I had no community to reach out to until I got to college.
Got it.
The only thing that I had when I was in high school is I would go down to Barnes and Noble and sometimes I would pick up a copy of 2600 magazine, which was distributed in Barnes and Noble at the time,
Sure.
which is just insane to think about. So I remember getting a couple of copies of that. But to be honest, a lot of the content then was a little bit above my head. And a lot of the stuff that I learned was literally just like reading Linux man pages and just brute forcing it on my own.
You went to college. Sounds like you sort of had this strong interest already, dating back to for many years. What did you actually study in college?
Yeah, so I applied to a bunch of different places. I took the one that gave me the most money. Yeah. It worked out pretty well. I went to Polytechnic University in downtown Brooklyn. And the reason why I chose that is they also had a scholarship program called Scholarship for Service, or the CyberCore program, that would give you, it would completely cover your education in return for working for the government in a cybersecurity related career. So I knew when I was 17 years old that this was a spark that I had and I wanted to keep going with it. So I joined Poly, and the very first thing I did when I walked in the door was I wanted to make an entrance. I wanted to like introduce myself to the security lab there. There were about 30 kids that were doing that program. It was one of the first cybersecurity programs in the US. They had actual coursework. They had like more than one course. They had like 5 courses in cybersecurity and a whole bunch of kids that were doing a bunch of self-study. And they had a PHPBB web forum that was set up for all the kids in the program to communicate. And I thought it would be great if I defaced it and said, "Hello, I'm Dan." So I did that. I wrote.
Took it well.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody loved it except for I think his name was Constantine, the guy who was the admin for it. He was a little grumpy. But yeah, so I defaced it and I was like, "Hi, I'm new here. Like, you know, I'd love to meet you all, whatever." And then I walked in the door. I'm like, "I'm Dan." And they're like, "Oh my God, you're that guy." That was fun. There was a public exploit for PHPBB that I like refactored and used, but like I had to learn SQL in order to pull that off, and I had to manipulate a bunch of other details that were specific to his installation. So I was a little bit of a script kiddie, but like I was doing some work for it.
Were you motivated by, again, when we're teenagers, I think there's like just this thrill of doing stuff, of like doing stuff against authority in a lot of ways. Was there a bit of that? Like, were you motivated purely from like, hey, I find this space interesting, or sort of what do you think sort of gave you so much agency to like do these things?
Yeah.
It's pretty unique.
I think it was, just like the blockchain field, there's immediate feedback.
Right.
Like, you write your exploit, you press enter, you get a shell. And that rush, you really can't compare anything to it.
Sure.
It's not like playing on defense, right? Like playing on defense, like you do all this security stuff and then you sit on your hands and you wait for 6 months and you hope that you don't get hacked.
Right.
Kind of boring.
Yeah.
But when you're like identifying security flaws and exploiting them and then teaching other people how to fix them, it is like, you can't argue with it. You're right. And that like black and white nature of it is really appealing. It like I have this drive where like I want to know stuff. I want to seek out new information. I want to find the right answer. And it's really easy to find the right answer when I can press enter
test and prod. Yeah.
Yeah. When I can test it. So that was always really fun. That was really addictive. Plus, I also just really like to teach people stuff. Eventually, while I was at Poly, this turned into me being a adjunct there, and I was teaching classes before I even graduated. I took over their top-level cybersecurity programs. So I was teaching a course in penetration testing and vulnerability analysis, application security. I ran at least one like self-study course with a bunch of other students. And I just really like showing people things that they don't already know. And that was another way to do it. Like, if I'm hacking into stuff, it is irrefutable that I have discovered something that you missed. Let me help you discover the ways that these systems compose together into something that you didn't expect. And it's kind of a great teaching tool.
Very nice. It sounds like, yeah, college was a huge sort of...
It was a win.
Yeah.
It was a stressful time, but it was a win.
You eventually sort of found yourself working for the government, for the NSA. Was that like stipulated, hey, if you're going to come here under scholarship, you have to work at NSA? Or what did that journey actually look like?
Yeah. So when you're in SFS, you have to pay off your time with the government. Okay. And I don't want to work for like the Veteran Affairs or something, like I'm not going to be an IT janitor. No, no offense to people out there that need to do sysadmin stuff. Like it's important work, but I really want to push the limits on the field. I want to be there at the tip of the spear. Yeah. And when you look at where the tip of the spear is in the US government, if I'm going to pay off my time, I want to work for the NSA. Yeah. So I got some opportunities to do that. And I think it was really formative for my career. Like I think a lot of people in security, just like my little story about defense, like they do a bunch of stuff, they sit on their hands, they wait to get hacked. And it's, you don't get feedback. If you don't have an active group of attackers going after your company, how do you know what you do is even useful? You need that testing. And most people never get tested. But when you're at NSA and you see how people really get hacked and you participate in that, right, now you know. The curtain has been lifted, like you understand how security really works. And I think there's so many people in security that have never had that experience and they end up telling you to fight ghosts. But I think I know more about what the real story is because I had that early in my career.
And sort of when you say like you had experience, like, hey, actually dealing with adversaries, obviously NSA is like hugely important. You're dealing with adversaries, rivals to America from a geopolitical sense. Are you referring to that, like defending against other countries, going after sort of other countries? Like what did that actually sort of look like?
Yeah, so I worked in two different roles when I was down there. The first was one called TAO. So TAO is Tactical Access Operations. That's like the group that performs more surgical kind of signals intelligence collection.
Okay, that's a good, leave it at, yeah.
Yeah, well, a little hand wavy. And I developed tools for them, and then on the other end of it, I worked for something called the SNAC, which was the defensive operations for cyber stuff. They were actually sort of like internal consultants. They would go to various, usually military networks, and help them identify exposures and fix them before a foreign motivated adversary hacked in. But obviously, like both of these sides of the house were pretty tightly integrated, right. Especially after post 9/11 stuff. There was a little bit more information sharing, and I got a really good perspective about everything that was going on. So I had fun down there. I spent a long time down there, but ultimately I burned out because what you get to do is different. Like, yes, there's no other place where you can get to be authorized to hack into foreign countries, right? Kind of a unique job experience. Yeah. But there's also like the actual techniques that you're using for that job are not unique. So I could go work for a consulting company in New York, or I could go work for a bank, or I could go work for another security firm, sure. And I could use a lot of the same techniques, use a lot of the same technology, but just have a different mission.
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily cutting edge.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's crazy for NSA. I think we've got to admit that on the cyber end of things, the reason why of an organization like NSA is so good is because they have the motivation to be. They hire people to build systems. They are slow and steady, and they keep their eyes on the target, and they always get there. But the actual mechanics of like, well, how do I write an exploit for this? What are the flaws that I'm going to exploit? Those are all well known. Like we kind of know we're like on the same page about that in public and in private. So I couldn't justify that with the downsides of also living in rural Maryland and commuting to work in a fort, in a car I didn't want to drive.
Wouldn't you assume though that foreign countries, like if these exploits are well known, if they're understood, wouldn't they evolve defenses and sort of, you do have to innovate? Like maybe why didn't that maybe happen to the level you might expect?
How so? Like who didn't innovate?
Like if you're using techniques that are well understood and common to go after rivals to America, wouldn't the intelligence agencies or the countermeasures for those countries eventually learn to adapt and defend against it? Or is that...
Sure. I mean, but like, how come, why does anybody get hacked? Like there's, people take their eye off the ball. They have pressure. There's business needs that like, I have to deploy this new technology. Security is not always the top priority. I'm a pragmatist when it comes to this stuff. I advise a bunch of startups. Yeah. A lot of people trying to go from 0 to 1, seed, series A, whatever. And it's always funny to be on the advisory board for a company like this. They're like, oh, Dan, tell us how to be secure. I'm like, the most important thing for you is to get users. Screw all this security stuff. Like you need to be alive first for us to have this conversation around how to not get hacked. And that's just life. It's also a massive resourcing issue, right? Like even if you decide you want it, can you? And with NSA, you might have a team that's been assigned to like study some target for like weeks or months or years or whatever. And there's just one dude at that other company that's like trying to make sure that everybody's computers are patched. It's not a fair fight. So yeah, like I think, not to like skip ahead or anything, but this is really the promise of AI, is equaling the playing field a bit. It has huge advantages for defense that it doesn't give to offense, because the talent constraint and the cost of getting help is now starting to equalize a little bit every day.
Got it.
But yeah, we'll come back. Yeah, we'll circle back.
We'll spend a lot of time on the AI stuff in a little bit. And it's totally off topic, but do you follow like the geopolitical sort of exploits and attacks? Like if you do, I'm curious what your assessment is of the like various adversaries or countries that America has in terms of how capable they are. Because I think, again, we all read about like, North Korea has obviously done crypto exploits, but like they do non-crypto stuff. China and the US are always going at it. Iran, like et cetera, et cetera. Have these other countries like materially sort of progressed? Sort of how do you evaluate where they're at today compared to, call it, the NSA? Or sort of like, has the gap shrunk?
I can't provide an assessment of what the NSA is capable of doing right now.
Yeah,
it's been 15 years since I saw anything, and I couldn't say anyway. Yeah. But I can say that just like objectively, I am truly impressed with what North Korea has been able to pull off. They are like normally from countries like that, you're seeing people recycle pen testing tools using off-the-shelf exploits and techniques that are well understood. And what you see from North Korea is they are performing intrusions. They are assessing the environment that they have access to, and on the fly writing novel tools to take advantage of it. They're writing like smart contract code. They're writing malware. They're writing like they're doing things that are really quite sophisticated. Yeah. But that's because they've chosen to specialize. Like I don't think they're doing a lot. Like it does seem like their focus right now is almost like 80% on blockchain protocols because it's showing so much success. And they have a deep bench of knowledge and talent to be able to do that. They have like an MO that works that they can redeploy every single time. And every single time they learn something new. So yeah, I'm impressed. They did a good job. As an attack, like I have to appreciate good game when I see it, right? On the other end of it, you know, Iran's a little nuts. That's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot of countries out there that have really amazing capabilities, but do they want to use them? And Iran does, and North Korea does. Like, that's what makes them scary, because we know that everything's insecure. We know that everything's unsafe. We know that, like, if I ask some guy on my team to sit down and study, name a company, pick anyone out of a hat, we'll be able to get in as long as we spend enough effort. And that's just one guy on my team. Whereas instead, if there's some country that has a budget and you can put somebody on it 40 hours a week for 6 months, they can blow it up. But will they? And with the NSA or with somebody else in the US, they're going to have reams of lawyers. They're going to pull out some huge book of like Title 50, Title 10 stuff and be like, I don't know, are we allowed to do that? They have so much restraint, but like North Korea and Iran don't.
Right. They have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And again, just to touch on North Korea, like, what does their setup actually look like? Do they have like training schools set up for this? Do they have like is it like a small team of elite operators? And it's like operating like a startup? Like, what can you actually share about what you know?
I mean, it's really, there's people that know for sure. And it's going to be people in the government, right? So I can only make assessments from the outside.
Right.
And from the outside, I would bet it's probably a pretty like startup mentality. It probably looks a lot like Trilobits. It probably looks like, they have an internal wiki where they keep notes about things that worked and things that didn't. They have a bunch of Git repos where they've got forks upon forks of like 5 different malware toolkits, where they've got process documentation for here's how to pull off this attack and this attack and this attack. And they've got a target list with like priorities on it that are evaluated according to both like impact, amount of money they can steal versus the difficulty and effort required to get there.
Yeah.
And it's just a systematic thing. And I'm sure that a lot of it is sort of like tribal as well. You get people that have been around for a long time. Yeah. They've done it before. You take the new kid, you let him sit in the driver's seat, and like that's how that's probably what it looks like. And the numbers that I've heard thrown around is that we're looking at somewhere between like 20 and 50 or so people that are doing this on like a semi full-time basis. Yeah. And that's all it takes to steal several $1 billion a year from crypto companies.
That's pretty crazy. It's like this is like North Korea's most valuable asset.
Yeah.
These days.
I mean, I know their GDP is something like $25 billion a year. And if they're stealing $1 to $2 billion a year, like this is a huge material impact to how much money their entire country has. Yes, the insecurity of blockchain protocols is funding nukes in North Korea. Just so we're clear about what the impact is.
No, that's it's important for everyone that we try to prevent that then.
Yeah. If you fail at securing your blockchain protocol, the world is gonna end. So like, please do a better job.
No, that's a very strong incentive if there wasn't enough of more already.
Yeah.
You spent some time at the NSA. How many years to be exact?
I was down there, like it covered a 2 calendar year span of time. A little bit on and off in between. I actually, weird tangent, like, you can include this. I have Crohn's disease. I had a really big flare up when I was down there. I had to take like 6 months off. I had to delay my school. I lost a bunch of weight. I got shingles. That was awesome. Yeah, just like huge health problems that year. But I eventually, I really just realized I want to be in a big city. I need to be around more people to exchange ideas with, to go out with, to like, have access to culture. Yeah. And I really desperately wanted to go back to New York. So I started looking around for opportunities to pay off my time from that scholarship in New York. And the place that I landed was the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And I worked for the whole system on an incident response team, which again, kind of like aligned with my interests of I want to be where the action is. Like so much of security is just sitting around waiting for nothing to happen. But when you're a big target, when you're like the Federal Reserve, people hack you. And if I'm the head of incident, or not, I wasn't the head of incident, I was a guy on the incident response team, the IR team. That means I had something to do every day. And it was fun and novel and interesting. So we got hit by, they didn't have a name for it when I was doing this. This must have been like 2009. We hadn't even coined the term APT yet. the advanced persistent threat, which was effectively just this moniker to say China without saying China, at least in the beginning. They would target the bank like every week. And that was way better than working at any tech startup. So I got, I think the Federal Reserve, it's not quite government, but it's kind of government. But like in a place like that, it's very easy for somebody with ambition and like you can very easily accumulate a bunch of authority just by showing up with a plan and motivation. And that's what I did every day. I showed up with a plan. I showed up with motivation. I came up with techniques to detect these guys inside the bank. I was always on the ball. I think my resume says that I responded to 100 security incidents, which is like one every 3 days that I was there. I'm not like 4 or 5 days. There were weeks where I slept at the office. There were weeks when I found incidents at 4 a.m. We caught, a lot of interesting stuff, and it just served to better validate what had already started when I was at NSA of like, this is how it really looks. This is how companies get hacked. This is how hackers hack. And all that fed into this good, like clear view of the world that informs everything I do now of like, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to tell you to fight ghosts. I don't want to, give you help that misleads you. I want to give you the right answer. And I know the right answer because I've been on the front line. So that was like also a pretty good choice in retrospect of place to work.
The common theme I'm seeing in your sort of early history is like this difference of being sort of a researcher / academic versus being a practitioner and actually seeing how these things happen in real life, defending against them, fixing them. Like there's a huge gap in the learnings and the experience that you get.
Yeah, I'm a moderately capable researcher, but I definitely say I'm more of a practitioner. I'm a doer, right? But when it comes to research, I think the thing to remember is that even if you're a tech company or a bank or whatever, and you adopt all the best practices, you do all the things that everyone tells you to do, you're still going to get hacked. And the reason is that like we just don't have the techniques available to actually adequately secure against attacks. Like we have to make fundamental progress. We have to come up with new techniques. We have to advance the field, which also informs a lot about what Trilobits does. Like the status quo is not acceptable. Right. So I'm like effectively the CTO of Trilobits, and I have to plan out our research and development vision and the kinds of technologies and things that we create and select from like a huge list of, hey, we could do all these 50 things. What's the 3 that are the most important? And because I have like a good knowledge of, well, what's going to help the most, it helps me be pretty fine-tuned about it. But yes, I'm much more on a practitioner end, I think.
And in terms of like jumping ahead, like you in terms of how you've built out the Trilobits team, obviously now you have researchers, you have like people doing the on the ground sort of work. Are these like completely separate skill sets? Is there some overlap or?
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we get our best research from the consultants. They're under the gun. They have to deliver. They have clients that need their help. And we deeply empathize with the problems that our clients have. We feel this compulsive need to do the things that they need us to do, or that rather to do the things that they need to do. Like it's at the end of the day, it's not our responsibility, but like we try to keep as much weight on our shoulders as possible. And under those intense times of pressure, that's where a lot of the best ideas come from. So all of our consultants, we have like a reasonably low utilization rate. Most consulting firms, you go to like Deloitte or McKinsey or something.
Sweatshop.
Yeah, it's a total sweatshop. You're going to be like 80, 85% utilized. And the 15% you're not, those are going to be the minority of vacation days that you get. Whereas Trilobits, we try to hit like 65, 70, which gives us a lot of time across the business where our consultants effectively work for us. And we can use that time to build tools that we need to reflect on what we learned from different projects and improve our understanding of the problems that clients have.
Level up the org.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'd say because the consultants have so much alignment with our clients, that really enables us to build custom fit, perfect, alignment tools and techniques that help with them. But the researchers are on a different spectrum, right? The researchers typically work on DARPA programs. We do some ungodly amount of work for DARPA. We're on a rotating staff of like 4 to 5 DARPA programs at any given time. They usually last for 2 to 4 years. We have 2 to 5 people that work on each one. And we're trying to figure out where security should be 10 years from now. And the kinds of solutions that you make for 10 years from now aren't always useful for what you need today.
Right. It's like not necessarily commercially commercially super important now, but it's setting the foundation.
Right.
For listeners, again, this might be a very basic question, but I actually think a lot of folks aren't even that familiar with DARPA. Can you give like a quick 60-second context on what it is?
Yeah. So, I mean, DARPA's claim to fame is they invented the internet. But basically they're like a venture capital firm that has no responsibility to make back the money they give away. They get billions of dollars in budget. They hire in about 200 program managers, which is like a partner of VC. And each of those program managers is able to create, let's say, about 4 programs, which are 4 moonshot ideas that they can give away, let's say, $20 to $50 million to see through. And they get a time horizon, usually of about 4 years to make it happen. So they get to work on, it's crazy. Like if you become a DARPA PM, you get $200 million.
Prestigious.
It's prestigious.
Yeah.
It's time limited. You're only allowed to be there for about 4 years. You get maybe $200 million and they tell you to spend it on whatever the heck you feel like.
Oh.
There's very limited oversight. I mean, there is, that's not true.
There's some oversight.
There's some oversight. They
Yeah.
have a tech council. It's extremely rigorous where they have to vet all the ideas that you come up with. They have these Hail Mary questions to validate that your idea is good and that it's moonshotty enough. But at the end of the day, it's one of the only places in the world where you get a chance to take risks that big. So they do a lot of things in cyber. They do through this subgroup in DARPA called I2O. We work with people in I2O, have worked with people in I2O continuously for our entire existence. The first money that Trailbits ever received was from DARPA. We worked on something called the Cyber Fast Track, which was a scaled down version of these big programs that enabled us to get 3 research programs in 2012, 6 months after we were created, that got Trailbits off the ground. So DARPA is incredible. You have to really it is not easy to get money from DARPA. It is not easy. It's not easy to come up with ideas that are DARPA level. That's another thing. I think a lot of people think about, well, I have this great idea to do this research thing. And what you're talking about isn't actually research in DARPA's eyes. Like they're really aiming for where do we need to be 10 years from now, not where do we need to be next week or 6 months from now or even a year from now.
So it's a federal agency whose specific focus is to fund essentially venture-style moonshot bets that can improve America's technological stance over the next few decades.
Clear, it's part of the DoD, DOW. And the specific aim is to, I'd say, help us win wars. It's to improve the warfighter. So a lot of these capabilities, like for cyber, really filter into how do we improve signals intelligence? How do we improve the security of the US versus these kind of cyber threats? But there's a lot more there. Like they've had incredible success in fields related to biology for how do we ensure that when people get hurt on the battlefield that they don't die? They've had incredible innovations in that. They've done all kinds of things with prosthetics, a lot of brain computer interfaces. They work on amazing stuff. It's really crazy.
No, interesting. I'm sure there's no shortage of conspiracies from.
Oh yeah, there's so many. There's so many. I get them all on Twitter all the time. Every time we tweet something about DARPA, we get a huge list of crazy people that tweeted us about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you find your way to DARPA, but sort of in between, what did that look like? You were at the Fed for sounds like a year, maybe 2. Mm-hmm. What happened after?
Yeah, I took a pit stop at this really great little company called ISEC Partners. When I was at the Fed, incident response is great, but I never felt like it was more than a pit stop in my career. I didn't want to be in incident response forever because you're really downstream of where the problem is.
Reacting.
Yeah. I had to argue, and this is where I got to be really persuasive. I had to argue up the hierarchy to say, hey, we've had 50 incidents of this type. here is the security control that if you put in place, I can go to sleep at night. So like, please, for the love of God, like turn on DEP in Adobe Reader so that we don't have to deal with PDF exploits anymore. That was the thing back in 2010 was PDF exploits. So I said, okay, I want to be upstream. I want to work on software security. I want to consult with people that are developers, not with people that are IT owners. So I joined a firm, and this helped because like I was doing this at night. I was still teaching at Poly. I was teaching there for 7 years, man. So I was teaching kids how to hack into computers. I was teaching them software security, how to audit code for bugs, how to do it in C++, how to do it in web apps, how to write fuzzers. I had this whole crew of my friends. We would go in and give these kids a class that honestly, they had no idea how good it was. But yeah, it was an incredible opportunity. So I kept my software skills sharp from that. And I joined ISEC Partners. ISEC Partners was effectively like the software security consultants to the stars. They were Silicon Valley based, and everybody in Silicon Valley that needed high touch security consulting talked to ISEC Partners. They were there's this, everything in security is very like tribal. It's a very small community. There's very few people that actually know security very well, and we all kind of know each other. So the field really started way back in the late 90s, early 2000s with a company called At Stake, which I could go back further, but we'll just start at At Stake. And At Stake eventually got acquired by Symantec, an antivirus company. And then a bunch of hackers decided they didn't want to sell antivirus software, so they all quit. And when they did that, it was this huge diaspora of brand new companies that started overnight of all the people that loved what they were doing at Stake, but wanted to work for themselves. Yeah. So ISEC Partners was the San Francisco office, and there was another one in the New York office, Montesano crew. And there were a few more around, but like I felt like the world was basically divided into, there was ISEC Partners and Montesano, and that was like the coolest places to be. So I ended up at ISEC, and I did that because ISEC wanted to start a New York office. They didn't have anybody here, and I would be their first employee. And that was a huge opportunity for me to build something instead of join something. And I feel terrible about this because I love the Montesano people. There's a whole nother life I could have had if I went with them. But ISEC got me in front of all of Silicon Valley. They taught me how to master the art of software security and showed me again, like pulled back the curtain on how does real software actually get made and what are the kinds of problems that people have. And just generally like gave me this window into the world that was compressed in this like about 1.5 2 year period that I would never have been able to get if I just worked at one firm. Got it. Yeah. So I loved that job. And I loved the people I work with. But the problem was that every single engagement you do, some whatever, PayPal hires you in to do a security audit. And then 12 months later, you go back to PayPal and you're like, what do you find? All the same bugs. And it's like, did you like listen to us at all? Did you like read the report that I wrote? Like I spent so much time on this, stressed out about it, didn't sleep the night before the report was due. And what did you do? So that was really frustrating. The other frustrating part was that we really didn't have, it was very iterative. It was very like, okay, we did this assessment. We have a little bit of time afterward to study and think about what we learned. And we're going to build a couple of tools every once in a while that help us get our job done. But there's no fundamental change to the way that we're offering services to companies or to our clients' incorporation of them. Yeah. And that showed up. That showed up in like year after year, we find the same bugs. And it showed up in year over year, we're using the same techniques to find them. That really motivated. So now you see like the history that I've had all starts to come together of like, I know the status quo is not acceptable. I want to hold my clients accountable. I want to use research to advance the field, but I still want to get out there and help people. So we mushed all this stuff together, and that's how it turned into Trailbits. We wanted to do fundamental research to build new tools to help people with like government sponsored hacking tools. And that's kind of where we started in 2012.
Hearing the background and the types of different experiences you had, I can see how it shapes what Trail of Bits today, which is a combination of like it tackles short-term problems, it tackles problems and things far out in the future. And I think it's pretty unique for this type of company just to have these different time horizons under research, under the consultancy arm, like under one company. I think it's quite a unique thing.
I think so too. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that more security consulting firms don't operate the way that we do, because I think like we're very radically transparent. 90% of the work we do ends up on our blog or on GitHub or something like that. I'd say like the 3 pillars of Trail of Bits are that we actually have a research lab mentality. We do fundamental research. Second is we build foundational tools. We actually work on filling in major gaps where there is no coverage and you can't get access to like some attack surface or whatever. And then last is we learn and share. We help people learn and share all the knowledge that we get.
Not to maybe criticize any folks you're competing with, but do most security companies just not touch the research part much because it's not a commercially sort of short-term thing that matters?
Yeah. I think we have this weird portfolio of different businesses under one roof. And I think that most people just choose one and stick with it. And you find a lot of pure play consulting firms that offer great services, but don't do research. And then they're caught flat-footed when they're working on emerging technologies where they actually need the research backing to do it right. Or they do a lot of work, but you never hear about them because they haven't found a way to discuss what they do publicly.
Talk about it.
They haven't like browbeat their clients to say, we need to share the work we've done for you. It's going to help the world. Or they do some research and they share it, but don't actually improve the fundamental capabilities of everybody else. Like they find a really great bug and they talk about their really great bug, but at the end of the day, that's a drop in the bucket. Hooray for you, you found that great bug, but like, how can anybody follow in your footsteps without tools to do it? So we combine all this stuff together, and I think those 3 characteristics really make us unique. I think many other companies have 1, maybe have 2, but nobody has 3.
I think we all understand your motivations for starting Trail of Bits and where some of the inspirations come from. How did you guys sort of get started in there? Yeah, it's a long journey, but
oh man, we did it poorly. We did it very poorly. So the company really started on like January 1st, 2012, and we had no idea what we were doing. It was me, Alex Sodorov, and Dino Daisovi, and the 3 of us were just playing business. We couldn't even incorporate the company. We couldn't choose a name. That was great. Like we showed up, it was April, and we're like, oh no, maybe it was February. Whatever. We were working in an office for a month. We're like, great, we have a company. And the only thing we could call it was like the company. So we sat down. And in my true style, I said, guys, we have a deadline. By Monday, I want all of you to come to the table with at least 10 ideas for names. We're going to choose one of the 10 of the 30 that we come in with, and that's going to be the name. We're just going to commit and stick with it. And we did that, and we showed up the next week, and all of us had 0 names. So at some point, Dino was like, well, I already have trailofbits.com. What if we just do that? And we're like, sold. Let's do Trail of Bits. And then we couldn't figure out how to incorporate it because he had registered an LLC. We needed to reincorporate it as an Inc., which meant that he had to wind down the LLC, and then the lawyer screwed up the paperwork, and we had to amend it and restate it in August that year. We didn't even have like a real company. But I think the more the answer that you're looking for is none of us took salaries for 9 months. Like we started this company, we wound down our savings, we worked and worked and worked through 2012 to get money in the bank. And then the first money that we spent was just a teeny bit on each of us to get modest salaries so we could pay our rent. And we plowed it into salaries for employees from day one. So we ended that year with, I think, 6 or 7 employees.
Oh, wow.
Or total, 3 of us included. You know, we brought on, we brought on a couple of people. And we also stupidly began development of a product that we had no business writing and no skills whatsoever to sell. So it was a huge money sink. But that was like, the exciting stuff. We're like, yeah, we're going to be big. We're going to, solve problems for the industry. Yeah, I think I paid myself $100K after like October in 2012. So I went like 10 months, which was, I don't know. I just thought that's what you had to do. I thought that's what, that's like in the rule book, right? Like you start a company, you don't get paid, and save the money for what you want to spend it on.
Makes sense. And who were your early customers? Like governments? Was it private companies?
Yeah, we were writing proposals to DARPA.
DARPA, okay.
We were doing government research.
How did that happen? How did you like get in touch with them? Did you guys have existing networks with DARPA? Like, did they like allocate funding specifically through one of their PMs or what tell me more about?
Yeah. So it was a special moment in history.
Okay.
First, I did have connections because I worked for the DoD for a bit when I was down at NSA. So I did know how to navigate that bureaucracy, and I understood what the delivery requirements were and like how to, like what the deliberation process looked like internally. That was good orienting, right? But what really happened was there was this one guy, his name's Mudge, Peiter Zatko, and he joined DARPA as a PM with the aim to scale down the government contracting process to the minimum viable contracting process. He wanted to allow individual hackers who he thought, and I think is right, are the best cybersecurity talent that the country has to offer, and enable them to rapidly work with the government with zero friction. So this is a weird DARPA program, right? DARPA programs are usually, I remember I saw a DARPA program one time for a stealth motorcycle, like crazy stuff like that, right? But in this case, the DARPA program was, can we accept a proposal and get money into the bank account of an individual who's never worked with the government in 5 days or less? That's a DARPA program. So that was called Cyber Fast Track. And we, knew Mudge quite well. And this was a big thing in the industry. So we were just writing proposal after proposal. We're like, all right, we're just going to brute force this thing and find a way to work with them. So we ended up getting selected for 3 different proposals. We did one that was sort of a code analysis tool called Code Reason, one that was a bug finding tool called Points2. I think the last one was an obfuscation toolkit called Mast. And the 3 of those together funded the company.
Oh, wow.
They were small in size, each, I can't remember the exact dollar amounts. It was somewhere between like 200K and like 700K each. And that enabled us to get our initial set of technology. We hired a couple employees to work on each one, and it got us exposure to the government, and it gave us like this escalation path where like, okay, we did Cyber Fast Track. What's next? Now we know how to write a small government contract. Can we write a bigger one? And it got us access to partners because we weren't a prime contractor. So we're going to work through a bigger company. Yeah. So we partnered with like Leidos and Raytheon and Mantech and all these other defense contractors. And they always had these big programs that were on that were like $100 million, but they required specialized expertise that they didn't have. And we were the specialists. We're like, SEAL Team 6, whatever, like call us in for the crazy stuff. And we would work on these little carve outs in these larger programs to do insane software security, backflips. And that sustained us for about 2 years.
So let's just use Raytheon as an example. People have probably heard of that. Like, what would you guys do for them? Would it be serving Raytheon or working with Raytheon to serve their partners?
No, so Raytheon had a DARPA program. So Raytheon would, as a prime contractor, they're enabled to directly contract with the government. So they get like a $10 million contract from DARPA to work on some PM's crazy plan for like, I don't know, an interplanetary internet network, right? Whatever. Yeah. And then Raytheon's on the hook for delivering that. But I don't think there's many good hackers that want to work for Raytheon. So
they bring you guys in.
They assemble a team. Okay. And they bring in a bunch of subcontractors where they might have like a team of 5 different subcontractors. And the way they carve it up, they're going to find like, oh, okay, like we need to do something weird with LLVM to do compilers. Oh, that's
here's the right
Trilobits.
guy. Here's the right team for that. Okay.
Yeah. And we would get that little piece of it. And what's nice about this too is some of these programs are classified. DARPA does most stuff unclassified, but some stuff classified. And even if the program was classified, we were able to get carve outs where we could do our work in the open.
Oh, wow.
I was aggressive about this from day one.
Why did they let you go? Why did they let you?
Because I annoyed them. I would call them, I would email them, I'd find every little regulation I possibly could to get them to allow us to do work in the open. That was a strategy from day one. That actually led to some really funny situations. Like we worked on, so from Code Reason, that was our code analysis tool. It effectively like you could give it like a block of code and ask, what does this do? And it tells you the answer.
Yeah.
We turned that into something that was like a decompiler called Mixema. And terrible name, but we love to beat it up. But yeah, Mixema. And we worked on Mixema for 2 other DARPA programs afterward. It was this incredibly flexible analysis tool for binary code. And we really wanted to release it. And we had to drive through this release process for like 2 years in order to put it on our GitHub. And it was crazy because I think internally the way it worked is it's called the die-star process. They had to print out all the source code, give it to 2 people, and they had to read it for classified information, then scan it back onto a CD and mail it to us. And we had to go, I remember going to our office was in Union Square. We walked over to Best Buy, we bought a CD player for the specific reason to like get the government authorized public disclosure code back out and put it up on GitHub. But like we went through that work and not every other company would, especially defense contractors, like around the Beltway kind of people. They have no motivation for that. They're just going to work on another DARPA program afterward or another government program afterward. Whereas with Trail of Bits, I'm trying to bring these things to Silicon Valley. And I can't do that if it's like my customer is not just the government. So the Mixema thing was our first taste of that, our first success at that, I'd say. And we've continued to do that ever since. So a lot of the government work, I'd say 80% of the government work we do, I have fought hard to make sure people outside the government can see it. And I like it that way.
And essentially it's like you guys, it's like doing the government work, you learn a lot, and these learnings should be shared with the rest of the industry.
That's what they're paying for. Yeah.
Right. to help America.
Yeah.
Help private industry.
On the same page, man.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating, the whole clearance system, classified, system it's very frustrating, but I found a good way to navigate it. So I'm proud of that. And I think that among defense contractors, we've also got kind of a reputation inside DARPA now, where if you want the work you're funding to have applicability outside of the DoD,
right,
you talk to Drill Bits. And that's a great reputation for us to have.
Makes sense. So it sounds like you guys really, the core DNA of the early company was like government and
yeah,
learning how to best serve the government's needs and then publicizing it. What did that, you guys eventually, when did you guys start serving private customers, like companies?
Okay.
Is that before or after the shutdown?
It was at the shutdown.
Okay. Should we talk about the shutdown?
Oh my God. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I have, on and off donated money at like every opportunity I can to get Ted Cruz out of the government for what he did to us in 2013. So we based our entire business at that point. Like I was kind of burnt out on consulting for MySic partners. I said, I want to make fundamental progress in the field. So I'm going to do a bunch of government research. I know how to access it. I know how to talk the language. I used to work at NSA. These are my people. Like I get it. Yeah. So we put all our cards in all our eggs in the government basket. And that was fun for us. It's really rewarding work for me. And then I think it was September 2013, the Tea Party showed up and they didn't want the government to spend any money and they didn't want to like negotiate for it. They just like dug their heels in and shut down the government. So there was this whole sequestration thing and like tens of billions of dollars were pulled back in contracts across the entire government. And every single one we were on got cut. So we'd spent 2 years, we had like 10 employees and we didn't get a single paycheck from like September when the sequestration happens, all the way through April the next year. Nuts, absolutely nuts. Like if you're a 2-year-old company, could you survive a shock where you didn't get a single dollar from any customer for like 8 months? I'm surprised we're still alive. I was just, I don't know if this was like strategic on my part or just bad planning on my part, but as the CEO of the business, I just was not spending a lot of money. So we had a big war chest, in effect, inside Trail of Bits, and we wound down the amount of money we had in the bank to 1 paycheck left in April. And I remember, at that time we lost one of our co-founders, Dino. He pieced out. We had a lot of cracks show up with our first employee, this guy Vincenzo, because he was like, this company looks like it sucks, and like I want to be a billionaire, so like I'm gonna jump ship and go somewhere else where I can like hang out with rich guys. I'm like, okay, fine. So Alex and I looked at each other and we're like, what do we do if this thing fails? And he's like, well, you and I won't take salaries for a bit, or like, we'll just wind the whole thing down. We'll just start it up again tomorrow. Like, it's no big deal because this is what we love to do. So it'll be fine. So I didn't have a lot of anxiety at the time. I knew that everything was going to be okay. I had like this insane, control of my emotions at the time. But it was a real shock to us because it told us that it didn't matter how much we diversified inside the government. If we worked with like this agency and that agency and this agency and that agency, they all get their money from the same place. And if they're not going to be a reliable partner for us, a reliable source of revenue, if I can do all this work and commit my entire business to making, to defending the warfighter or whatever, it's like, aligning the company with the mission that they have, and they still screw me in that instance, I have to get other clients.
Right.
So we pivoted hard. I set a very specific goal that I wanted no more than 50% of our revenue to come from the government from that point forward. And we set out on a multi-year plan to make that happen. So we got some of our first work from, at the time it was Motorola ATAP, turned into Google, which ironically, Mudge was leading. So Mudge had left DARPA, joined Motorola, got purchased by Google, and then he wanted to do wacky moonshots with Google stuff. So we ended up making the first encrypted voice call system that was natively built into Android. It's called Trust Anchor. We managed to create a custom operating system that lived on an SD card that had like off-device key storage, like a TPM kind of, and then a hacked up version of Signal that let you do phone calls with keys that malware couldn't steal. And that contract, among others, saved the company. After that, we did some security audits. I think at this point, well, I shouldn't say for who, but we did some incredible security audits for people. We started shifting into this more consulting realm. Our first security audit was for a major EDR vendor. We looked at somebody that was creating like kernel level Windows code, and we did an extremely detailed security audit that beat every other one they'd ever done before. And that got us a bunch of word of mouth and a loyal, reliable client for many years, and taught us that like, oh, wow, we can actually do this. A lot of the skills that I used to do that came from ISEC. That was like ISEC's business, but we just kind of
learning to work with private companies and sell to them.
Learning to do security audits.
Security audits, okay.
Yeah, learning to do security audits. But now, now it's like 20, I don't know when that was, whatever. It was, early in the company's history. Now we're showing up with like, oh, well, I have this whole team of crazy research people that deeply understand compilers and software exploitation and virtualization and everything else. As a consulting firm, I never would have been able to hire those people. And now they can consult on this project for this EDR vendor and just blow it out of the water. So we were getting really good feedback that our services were already way above where the industry standard was. So I just plowed more resources into that. We started hiring like mad for those kinds of projects.
And where do you find these people? What's your general philosophy with sort of hiring, especially early on, where you guys are still relatively focused? Were you looking for folks with like a formal, like CS background, like academic? Were there folks more on like the hacker side, sort of similar to yourself? Maybe it's a mix, but like what were you guys open to at the time?
I mean, we take all comers.
Yeah.
We had, I mean, one of our most successful employees was a lot like me. Like, it took me 6 years to graduate college. I had to go back for my final semester and finish physics one, discrete math, and linear algebra. um, so, like, I was a smart kid that burned out. Um, and I think a lot of people that are highly motivated and like understand what they want to do in the world have a similar experience. So we had another guy join that was also like in that boat. I think he was like our third or fourth employee. Um, since then, we've also gotten people like I won't name names, but like we have one guy on staff that like has a felony. He went to jail for hacking, which is crazy. You know, I had some close calls. Don't get me wrong, but like getting picked up on the tarmac, you know, by like Secret Service, whatever, like that's crazy. Um, but there's some redeemable acts of like illegal behavior, and I try to look at it on a case by case basis. Like in this case, this person, I'd call it like a crime of passion. You know, there's other ones that I don't feel are as redeemable. There's
Okay. Yeah. Where is the line?
the line for me is if it's like abuse, if you're trying to do it to enrich yourself, if you're trying to do it to be abusive, like if you're running a financial crime gang,
Yeah.
and you're stealing people's credit cards, and it like affects their livelihood. But no, this guy just wanted to hack video games. You know, it's harmless,
That's fair.
mostly harmless.
Yeah, mostly.
And then obviously like how you think about it, how you talk about it afterward.
Yeah.
So there are some people that are like, oh yeah, you know, I was 17, like I stole a bunch of credit cards, and like, you know, that's just what 17-year-olds do. Like, no, that's not what 17-year-olds do. Like, that's you. That's weird. Like, we're gonna pass on that one. But yeah, I'll consider everybody on a case by case basis. Main thing is like you have to have a desire for mastery. When you're at Trail of Bits, the thing that binds everybody together is that we all want to be the best at what we're doing. And I think it's like team cohesion through competence. You need to know that you can trust the other guy. And that, I think, is the glue. That's the glue that keeps Trail of Bits together. So that's the key thing that I look for.
How do you define mastery? You know, like I don't know if there's an objective way to rate mastery in these fields. Is there? Like, how do you think about it?
Good question. I mean, kind of the way that I evaluate it for mastery is like, is Dan satisfied with it? Because I hold everybody to a really high bar. I think I have like an extreme amount of empathy for users, and I really think through how does this look from their perspective. It's like a cognitive empathy kind of mindset. And I want to reduce friction for them as much as possible. I want to make sure that whatever we give them, they don't have to think. It just does it. And I think too many security people are unable to get away from their own experience. They think through what they know. They think through their experience. They create a tool for them, but the tool isn't for them. We're trying to publish this. We want to share it. We want other people to benefit. And that shift of mindset is what drives like,
you want there to be value creation.
Yes.
Directly.
Did we go far enough? And it's like, you can't create value unless people use the thing you gave them. Like a great tool with no users serves no one.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think a lot of it, you know, this is kind of the reason why I'm still sort of the editor of the Trail of Bits blog. You know, people write these really articulate blog posts about some technical discovery that they made, but it doesn't always connect. And I think I'm that connective tissue because I step in and I really can reason about, well, like when a VP of engineering, when a senior engineer, when somebody else reads this blog post, what are they really going to take away? Why are they reading it? So I think that's the key step that I think a lot of engineers in general, not just security engineers, a lot of engineers have trouble with, that I seem to have, which is sort of, I think, part of the reason why Trail of Bits is successful.
And in terms of getting to mastery, in terms of learning and self-improving, like what does that actually look like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis? Is it like just chatting to other folks in the field? Is it like giving talks and talking about the things in production that you're fixing? Like sort of what is the type of stuff where, let's say you hire someone young, and they're asking you this, like, what would you tell them?
Let me answer this from two perspectives. So one is I have to think about Trail of Bits not as like a services company, but a learning system. So the whole company is this apparatus that ensures that what individual people learn get filtered back to everyone else in the company. So we have to think through a bunch of different steps in that system in order to make this happen. We need to identify when we fail. We need to hold ourselves to a hugely to a very precise standard of perfection. It is. I think too many people negotiate around what good looks like. This is my joke at the beginning that we're in this field where we don't actually solve any problems. Like we show up, we give you 20 bugs, and like, are those the only 20? You're like, oh no, absolutely not. There's like 1,000 more. I can't tell you how many more there are. Like, did you do a good job? Like, I don't know, but I found 20. And that is just not going to fly at Trail of Bits. We hold ourselves to a much higher standard. I want to tell you, I want to make sure that we've eliminated surprise for you. That's closer to what the standard is. And for certain engagements, we actually do want to drain the well dry, right? And then what we need to do is surface failures. We need to talk about cases where we didn't do the right thing or we could have done better. So we have retrospectives that happen for the most part after every single project, but also roll-ups for difficult projects every quarter. We also have an escalation process where when we see something go awry, we immediately know to raise our hand and bring it to a team. It's a lot like the Toyota quality system. You've raised the Andon flag, and then everybody responsible runs to the incident and talks through the 5 whys. That's kind of the same thing that Trail of Bits does. And that enables us to surface all these rough edges where we can reincorporate what we learn into the process that we adopt and do better the next time. I'd say internally, we also have a lot of opportunity for learning. Like every single team, like those AppSec, crypto, blockchain, AI, whatever, all those teams, they have weekly paper readings. Yeah. Like just because they're consultants doesn't mean they can't ignore research. Right. Doesn't mean they can ignore research.
You need to make time. We give you the time to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do things where we'll invite the author of a paper to come present it to us.
Yeah.
I'll give them like a gift card or something. And they're usually happy to do it because, I mean, wouldn't you be excited if you've got 20 or 30 people that read every single word in something that you published and are so excited to talk to you about it and engaged and show up with questions and want to build things on it? Like, yes, everybody shows up.
Like the Google quantum paper that just came out.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to talk about that.
The Q-Day one, yeah. Yeah, Q-Day is coming. Yeah, my team is very excited about that. We're going to get a lot of business. Yeah. I mean, we've always had the post-quantum stuff on the back burner. And we're like, we know all this stuff. Like we have, codes and hashes, and like, we understand all this weird, moon math that makes post-quantum work. But like, nobody's wanted to buy that service from us. Everybody's like, ZK is cool. Like, let's do MPC, like, whatever. And now we're opening the floodgates for like, oh my God, we have to transition all of our algorithms to PQ stuff in the next like 2 months.
With Bitcoin specifically, how do you feel about, again, we can talk about it for a long time, but there's other stuff. Like, how do you feel about Bitcoin and quantum specifically? Do you have confidence in the social ability of Bitcoin core developers to coordinate that? Because that's what it is. Ultimately, if you can believe that the technical fix is there, which there seems to be a strong consensus that this should be fixable, and it really is a social issue for Bitcoin. Yeah.
So this is the most frustrating part about working in the blockchain. Yeah. Like, everybody wants to be super decentralized. Nobody wants to make any decisions. Yeah. Everybody thinks that like, we're going to outsource this to a DAO and we're going to have a vote. And it sort of downplays that among all those people in the DAO that make a vote, there's one person who's the expert in the thing you're trying to decide, and they get just as much of a vote as everybody else. All right. And they easily get drowned out. It's a popularity contest. Yeah. We've been doing this for years, and we get super frustrated because we'll show up to governance votes and we will have what we truly believe is the right answer. But if another team launches some kind of PR ground game better than us, they have the business development people that like hang out in Discord all day and get chummy with all the other people. it's way easier to distract from what the true technical objective should be. So I have not been impressed by the leadership of many foundations, of many DAOs, of many, decentralized organizations that operate the blockchains that we work on. The real quality ones are few and far between. They're out there. I'm not saying everyone's bad, but like it's hard. It's hard to find ones that are well run. And the Bitcoin people, I think, are going to be in a tough spot for exactly that reason.
Do you think there are Bitcoin developers that sort of have the understanding and ability to like arrive at the right solution, and they're not empowered enough, or do you think there's just too many cooks in the kitchen in general?
I think there's way more cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
This is kind of there is value to having the benevolent dictator for life, right? My counterpart, the other Guido. And I think somebody just needs to put their foot down and say, we need this. Here's what we're doing. Everyone get in line behind me. Because like we've looked at these challenges and weaknesses for example, in Bitcoin for a long time. But I think this is 2019. We got hired by DARPA to do a study of the national security implications of Bitcoin. Public paper, again, like I took this and just yeeted it online. Like the whole thing is out there. You can go download what DARPA paid us hundreds of thousands of dollars to study for like months and months of time. We looked at how easy it was to coerce the blockchain into doing things that you didn't want. It was like unintended centralities in the decentralized system. Are there software conditions? Like could we backdoor if we could backdoor one specific developer's machine, could we use that one specific developer to manipulate what transactions happen on the blockchain? We looked at network conditions. Like if we can influence the latency of a single internet link in the world, can I manipulate the transactions of the blockchain? And the answer to all these things was yes. And we put out this big paper and talked about all these weaknesses. The follow-up isn't there, right? So there's a track record here. And yeah, like I don't want to be alarmist or anything, but a lot of times it's easier to just start fresh. And this Q-Day thing, I think a lot of companies are going to get caught flat-footed.
Because they don't take it seriously enough.
Yeah, I mean the talent also for it. Like I've got 12 people on my crypto team. I think we have one of the largest consulting cryptography teams in the world, and especially one of the largest that understands PQ stuff, post-quantum stuff. Who else are you going to hire? Like, who else can even help you with this? Can you trust some guy to just use Claude and brute force it and figure out what to do? And not only that, but like the libraries that implement this stuff. I remember during the NIST trials when they were trying to settle on the standardized algorithms, there was, I wish I remember the details to this, but the vague parts of it were that there were like 30 proposals, and some hacker took one of the proposals, turned it into a capture the flag challenge, and some 17-year-old broke it over a weekend, right? So these algorithms, they're extremely brittle. All cryptography is extremely brittle. You make one mistake, the whole house of cards falls down. And the code that implements them and the algorithms themselves are untested. So the likelihood that somebody tries to make something post-quantum and then inadvertently fails, silently, latently fails, and you discover it 5 years later is pretty high. Yeah. So this kind of stuff, it's really scary, I think, to most people. To me, this is like, wow, this is such a great opportunity. I have so many people that can solve this problem. Yeah, so like, I think cybersecurity is not going to go away. I'm
not worried about that.
I'm going to be good for a while. Yeah, this post-quantum thing's going to give us a bunch. AI is going to give us a bunch. So life is looking good.
I know, super interesting. And while we're on the topic of Bitcoin, what do you think about this like conspiracy theory that Bitcoin has sort of, I'm not going to say like it's an NSA creation, but like has influences from three-letter agencies? Again, I don't know that much about sort of what these theories even say, like the details, but I know that it exists. Like, hey, maybe early in some of the electric digital cash days, like there was some potential influence. Like, is there any credence to any of that? Do you have any opinions on
it? Yeah. I mean, I've never been asked that question before. I I mean, just shooting from the hip here, it would be really funny if the reason Satoshi is a pseudonym is because it was somebody who worked at the fort and like couldn't publish, and they did it to avoid getting like their clearance yanked. But I mean, not to add any fuel to the conspiracy fire here, but like I have no idea who Satoshi is. And I mean, I would assume I mean, they're yeah, I don't know. I have no opinions.
No one knows.
That's the best I can do.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's all I know.
Fair enough. Going back to how you've built Trail of Bits, again, it isn't really just a consultancy. You specifically wanted to avoid structuring your company like that. You make sure folks are leveling up the company. Like, how did you guys figure out how to even structure that? Because like, were there other sort of organizational inspirations where you borrowed elements from? Sort of, what are the bits and what are the sort of? So I'm sure you guys came up with stuff, but yeah, how did you learn? Like, where did you learn from?
I'm going to tread backward a little bit. You asked me how I find people for Trail of Bits. I'm going to merge that. So, like what we do at Trail of Bits is we work on grand projects. Like I want to solve big problems, and people come to Trail of Bits because we are a vehicle to get done the things they want to see in the world. That's why people join. They have a mission, and they know if they work with us, they can achieve it. That is more compelling than any other reason for people to work anywhere, right? Like there's a limit to how much you can pay people. At some point, people want meaning. So really good example is in 2016, we worked on the DARPA Cyber Grand Challenge.
Right.
Moonshot idea of like, hey, can we build a system that we can feed binaries, that we can feed software to, that it's never seen before? Can it find, exploit, and fix those security issues with no interaction from a human? And this is 2016. This is before AI hit the big time. And I became, part of the mission of Trail of Bits is to share the knowledge that we have. And part of the downside of working for the government is nobody likes to talk about what they do. So we became like the sports announcers for that competition. We wrote like 10 blog posts describing what was happening, like reports from the field. Yeah. And it was something that was like, we effectively branded that competition like from Trail of Bits. It was like everybody recognized that we were a central player in that story, and they knew they had to get their information from us and their analysis from us. I told them what it meant. And that's the kind of stuff that draws people into the company. I could go off on a huge tangent about that. There's a funny little anecdote where, did you know that the cloud is just other people's computers?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. Like and did you know that when you purchase services from the cloud, there is a limit to how many computers you can purchase? And we found it during the Cyber Grand Challenge. There's this funny, like the night before the preliminary round, we thought it would be a good strategy to first off, like over provision the compute that we had access to. So at the time, the largest instance size on EC2 was 32.8x large. And we bought every single 32.8x large machine globally for 24 hours. And we went to the ends of the earth. We actually called this data center tech from Amazon in Sydney, Australia. And this guy was running through the data center trying to find individual machines he could give us. Yeah. It cost us, I think, $20,000 for one day, which was crazy because the company was very small at the time. But that enabled us to do pretty well in the competition. But like stories like that of like, what other company would do crazy stuff like that? That's what draws people in. So now I have all these people that are joining the company. And the question is, well, what do you do with them? How do I organize them? What's the team structure that I make? And I think the key thing is, as an organization, recognizing that I work for them, that these people are the company. Right. And everybody, no matter if you're, sales, PM, HR, whatever, like you are not here for you. You are here to make them look amazing, to get out of their way, to let them do their job, to make sure they can achieve these grand goals like the Cyber Grand Challenge. I am not going to have somebody work on the Cyber Grand Challenge and then ask them to fill out expense reports or do HR training or like do, anything else. I want to get the hell out of their way. So that was like key principle number one. No matter what happens, this is a thin organizational layer of mostly self-organizing, high commitment employees, people that care about the work they're doing, that are motivated internally, intrinsically, not extrinsically. We're not looking at them being motivated by the paycheck they get. They're motivated by solving the problem. And they are going to figure out how best to do it. So I think that was some of the initial ideas. So really, like in the early days, it was a big blob of people. There wasn't really structure to it. Everybody was flat. And I was an engineer that worked shoulder to shoulder with everybody else in the team. After that, you know, once you pass like 80 people, you have to start thinking about structure a little bit. And that's where a lot of the mess has come. And I made a lot of mistakes. But for the most part, it's still true. For the most part, like my best days at work are the days when I am a player coach, when I am shipping code alongside people on the team. There are times when I hop into engagements and I find bugs with people. It's not rare, it's not common, somewhere in between. I do it like once or twice a year just to show people I still have it.
Yeah.
But like that's the environment inside the company.
Got it. Dan, the way you've described Trail of Bits almost reminds me of a sports team where you have, on a baseball team, you have like pitchers, you have hitters, you have these individual contributors where they each have to perform their job and stand out as best they can, perform the best, but they're still leveling a team up. They're still helping each other. Like it seems like the culture you're trying to establish is really one where everyone can try to be a star while still helping the team's record like level up as a whole. Is that a fair analogy? Is that something you've drawn inspiration from?
That's absolutely a fair analogy. I mean, when we have blogs show up on our website, we do our best to make sure that we recognize the person that authored them. It's a really key way that people get credit and recognition for the good work that they've done. When we offer out our reports, it has the person's name on it. And this is also like, it bleeds into how we get excellent performance out of everybody. Like there's a high accountability culture that when you do good work, it's highly visible.
You get the upside and the downside.
We have blameless postmortems,
fair
right?
enough.
Like we do retrospectives, we look at what went wrong, we treat it as a learning process. It's not there to punish anybody. It's there because we only ever want to fail once. I never want to have a repeat mistake. We always need to figure out where did we go wrong here? What is the choice that we made? And how is it non-optimal so that we can figure out what to do better the next time? But I'd say another thing about like motivating and working with people like this, they're all brilliant and nerdy. And you want to keep them all directed in the same place, is that as the company has grown, we needed to figure out actually good company values and find ways to reinforce them as time goes on. So we've adopted a bunch of processes that help us do that. For instance, I have a town hall every other week. And one of the practices that I like the most is we actually have a gratitude practice. We make everybody do peer-to-peer, we don't make everybody, we offer it out to everybody to do peer-to-peer recognition of good things they have done that either helped them or they thought was cool. And we organize them into the 5 values of the company. So that when somebody does something like acts autonomously, they did something that no one asked them to do and it worked out great. We make sure to specifically recognize them for not just what they did, but why it aligned with the company. I'm going to make sure that everybody's aligned, that like we're doing things that are all moving in a general similar direction. So it's really about like what gets rewarded, what gets incentivized, how do we build a system that encourages people to do the things that we want and discourages people to do the things that we don't. And I've had to think a lot more about that after we reached about, I'd say 60, 70 people. Yeah. That's the point when I think before then, everybody had a lot of personal time with me. And now it's harder to come by. Now, like we were just talking before we were recording that I moved to Miami. I have an apartment down there now. That was a whole big process. And I can feel the disconnect with the company from taking about 2 to 3 weeks off and having to move all my junk down there. It's a constant challenge to make sure those systems are in place to keep everybody motivated in the same direction.
Got it. That makes sense. Do you follow sports yourself? Do you play sports?
So my dad's a gym teacher, football coach, and wrestling coach, and I played on his teams.
Okay.
So I would say, like, I know what's going on, but I burnt out on it as a kid. So I don't watch any sports. But like I've played football before. I was a quarterback and a safety, and like I wrestled at 190 pounds, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I'm trying to get back into it now. Not back into wrestling now, but like
That'd be a bit much.
I'm on like a big health kick right now.
You have to if you're in Miami.
Yeah. No, the sun, it really helps.
You. Yeah.
There's so many gyms. But I have memberships now, effectively 2 of them. But yeah, so I get it. Like I've been there. I think that part of that, my dad's sort of like impression on me gave me some of that. I feel like a little bit of a sports team coach, especially when I'm running Trail of Bits.
No, it makes sense. I mean, yeah, sports has been a big part of my life too. And I think, yeah, there's so many lessons you could talk about, but yeah, for company building, for startup building, it really is. I think it's a great analogy.
Yeah. I think the important part is sometimes in order to be a good coach, you have to have mastery of the game.
Right.
And I think it's very easy, and I have made mistakes in the past where I bring in somebody that feels like they're a great professional manager. They come in and I've led teams before. I have an MBA. I know what's going on about, motivating people. And in a culture like Trail of Bits, it's very easy to ignore or forget that they need to be an expert at the tech too. So like, it seems obvious, but it needs to be somebody that the team truly looks up to and aspires to be at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So it's been extremely hard to recruit good managers for the team, because usually when somebody's an expert at their field, they don't want to stop doing it.
They don't want to manage.
They don't want to manage because like managing means getting out of the person's way. It doesn't mean sitting down and doing it for them. Like leadership is about growing the talent, not about doing stuff for them. So we have had a hell of a time finding people that are comfortable in that spot. And I think it's one of the biggest constraints that we have as we grow. We have a team of incredible individual contributors, and the leadership desires for people, the like managerial leadership desires for people on the team, very low. We've definitely had problems where like we get people that they can communicate well. They understand, they have like empathy for clients and for other people. They have good ideas about ways we can run the company. We say, you are our person. We're going to give you more responsibility. We're going to give you more authority. We're going to give you the ability to direct resources in the company. You are a leader now. And then 6 months later, they quit and they join another company where they go back to being an individual contributor. And that has happened more times than I would like to admit. But I'm like, at this point, I'd say I'm almost desperate for it. I think it's a transition that I've had to go through too. Back in I could have been a contender. I was a good technologist. Like I was doing really good work before Trail of Bits started. And at some point, I drew the short straw and I'm like, I got to be the business guy. But I found a lot of reward in it and a lot of value in it. And it's fulfilling for me. And now, I get like Claude Code and Codex and I'm back in the game again. I can start coding and I can start writing exploits and do whatever fun stuff I want, even though I'm a little bit rusty. So you don't have to give it all away.
Fair
right?
enough, yeah.
But yeah, we need more people like that, and they're very hard to find.
How do you think about the balance between maintaining quality and growing as a company? Because there's a finite number of people that fit the technical and intellectual bar, that are highly motivated, that are trustworthy, that want to become masters. Like there's just people out there, but there's not like infinite amounts.
Yeah.
So the bigger, like in another world, you could have been maybe bigger just by headcount than you are. You could have served.
So many ways.
You could have grown more and done more industries. Yet you intentionally haven't. You guys are you're still big, like relative, and you're well known, but like clearly you've sort of been intentional about it. Sort of, how do you think about that tension?
Yeah, revenue is never the goal. Excellence is the goal. I want to do work that is respectable. I want to do work that helps people. And there are enough people out there that need the help, and more of them every day, that the company will grow as a result of doing excellent work. I have a excellent head of this guy, John. John's a phenomenal head of sales for us. And it's been a real education to bring in salespeople into the company and talk through what good incentive models look like. How do we compensate sales staff? How do we reward people for growth? And it's a very funny conversation when you say, I don't want to.
Yeah.
We reward people for bringing in work that our engineers like to do. We want to bring in clients where the clients do what we tell them to. Like, I don't want to work with somebody that doesn't fix the bugs we give them, that like takes the code we give them and ignores it.
Looks bad also.
It's unrewarding. It doesn't fulfill the mission for the engineer. It's all about the engineers. It's all about that person who's on the front line of the company. Are we doing something that makes them proud to get up in the morning? And they are not proud to get up to work for a client that throws their report in the trash. So incentivizing our team to find opportunities like that has been a really interesting challenge. And I think, we're still at the size, today we're about 140 people. We're still at the size where I can kind of curate, I can go in and adjust, I can go in and like observe that like, hey, why are we selling to this company, or why not this one? Or like, wouldn't it be great if we did this instead? But we're right at the point where we're building systems where I can kind of let the system run itself. And that it's just a few, if any, companies create like growth systems like the one that we have.
Almost feels like you're trying to structure and create Trail of Bits to be a place where like a younger version of you would have wanted to stay and grow and remain at.
100%.
That's almost what it feels like.
100%. Yeah. I mean, we have this intellectual mind trap that we get people into. There's like problems over in every single corner. You have the smartest coworkers you've ever had. I mean, with Trail of Bits, with 140 security engineers, we are like toe to toe with some of the tier A tech companies. Most companies are proud to have 2 or 3 people on their security teams. And those 2 or 3 people, half the time that they work is convincing other people to do what they tell them to, right? Please patch this thing in production. There's this terrible exploit that's out. Wouldn't it be great if we didn't get hacked this time? And like, it doesn't reward technical excellence. It rewards navigating organizational politics, right? But with Trail of Bits, we have very few internal politics. The company's mostly flat. You can mostly do what you want. Everything's autonomous. We have a high commitment company where like everybody is driven to improve the work that they do. And you get to focus on the tech. And we don't just have 2 or 3 people. We have effectively like 120 of them. So the talent density is crazy. I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think listening to what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation and like why you left those roles, like you're trying to prevent the next version of you from.
What I was saying was that like we do have a lot of rotations internally on the team as well. So if you get burnt out on consulting, you can go work on a research project, you can go hop into an engineering project, you can go work on AI, you can work on crypto, you can work on AppSec. We can change it every 6 months. And it's sort of like, why would you leave?
It's like, again, it sounds like a professional sports team where it's like a soccer team. You have like nutritionists, you have dietitians, you monitor their sleep. Not saying you guys do that, but it's like almost what it sounds like.
Yeah, we're trying to be more data driven. So like maybe I'll add that to the list.
We have to talk about AI. There's a lot of places we can take this discussion, but maybe to kick it off, what are your thoughts on Anthropic's release of Mythos?
So I'm really excited by the release of these models, but at the same time, I think we're focusing on the wrong things about them. The Mythos hype was about how it could find bugs, but we could find bugs with AI years ago. Like Trail of Bits won a whole competition for it, the DARPA AI Cyber Challenge back in last summer. At the time, last summer, there were already like 15 or 20 bug finding systems using AI that could find an effectively unlimited number of bugs in the world. Like we didn't need a new model from Anthropic to tell us that there's a huge number of latent security issues out there just waiting to be discovered and that you can use AI to do it. I think the challenge is, what are we going to do about that? It's how do we validate that the bugs that this thing is finding have impact, that they are reachable by an attacker, that it's capable for somebody to abuse them to cause harm. That's a big challenge, because from my experience and from the experience I know of other people with these systems, you get like a 10% hit rate. Like 9 out of 10 bugs that you find, yeah, there's some memory corruption, but what can I do with it? Can I overwrite the right part of memory?
Is it an actual exploit?
Yeah, well, can I turn it into one?
Right. Yeah.
Can I turn it into one that doesn't get me the same level of privilege? Can I turn it into one that I can chain with another tool in my set in order to get somewhere? And that is why a lot of the validation is still happening with humans. And then further down the line, you have, well, can we make a good idiomatic patch? And the idiomatic patch, like you can see this with a lot of the open source developers that are receiving the Mythos bug reports, even the FFmpeg people. They're like, wow, this patch, like it worked cleanly, and like I didn't have to change it. It like matched our coding style and everything. It's because a human wrote it.
Yeah.
So the patching problem is still kind of unsolved. And then further down the line, you've got these open source projects where now they're receiving 10x the number of bug reports. And yes, they're receiving 10x the number of slop as well, but they're also receiving 10x the number of real bug reports, which is I think the unreported case that like frightens people in security a lot. And they're going to have to increase the cadence that they release patches, because they're getting one critical a week. And now downstream, companies are going to have to apply critical patches every single day. You can't wait anymore. So like those are all the problems that I think I'm concerned about when we talk about AI's effect on software security. I knew that these bugs existed. I knew that AI could find them. I had a system that could do it a year ago. The real question is like all the other steps in the chain. How are we addressing those?
And I know you said sort of these capabilities have been around through AI, and it's hard for an outsider to assess since Mythos isn't publicly released. But is it, from what you know, is it sort of as much of a improvement or sort of increasing capability as Anthropic's framing it? Because I think the idea is like, sure, we've been able to do this with past models, but Mythos can do it just better, whether it's quicker, in a deeper way, like smarter, like all these things. Like, is it maybe a step function improvement, like I guess the announcement portrays it to be?
It is. From a model perspective, it absolutely is better. They've spent a lot of time doing reinforcement learning to teach it specific tasks related to cybersecurity, obviously. The thing is, this sort of follows the bare lesson kind of model here, where in the past, if you wanted to get the same results, you needed more framework around the model.
Right.
And that's what our system in the AI Cyber Challenge had. We had a big Kubernetes distributed system and a lot of Python code that guided the model to do the things that we wanted to. And now, as time goes on, you can strip away parts of that framework and you can do more of it with just the model by itself. So the reports that I have heard, or rather the information that I can share about Mythos is, it's really effective at self-discovery. It does not give up as easily. It explores more. It can take less precise direction. And it clearly knows what to do for cyber-related tasks, but it's slow, which means it's big, which means it's expensive.
Cute. Yeah.
And that likely, if I had to guess, that likely plays into why only certain companies have access to it. The other thing that I worry about is like Mythos is here right now. Most of the Chinese models kind of trail along at like 6 months behind the curve. It's April now, end of summer. We're looking at a model like this that I can download to my laptop. And what's going to happen then? So, I sort of think that like right now, because, all the people that use that model, they won't have to invest as much into a framework. They will, but they won't. And they're also going to have a lot of false positives. 90% of the stuff that comes out of the model is going to be fake hallucinated junk with overinflated severities. And they're going to have a huge portfolio of potential bugs. You don't get validated bugs, you get potential bugs. How do you sift through that to find the good stuff? And then of the good stuff, which of those fits into your operational process to hack a company? And it doesn't it's not a magic, snap your fingers and now I can like auto hack every company on the planet. There's still a lot of infrastructure that you need to make in order to pull off a real attack. But I do think a lot of these pronouncements about like, is this the vulnerability apocalypse or is this the next Y2K?
Yeah.
I don't really know. But I really do think that the next 12 months are going to be critical for cybersecurity, that it is a like make or break it, make it or it is a moment where like all the security debt that we've ever accumulated has now come due. We need to fix it because everybody's going to get swamped in bugs over the next 12 months. And attackers at least have a plentiful supply of bugs that they've never had access to before. And I could see things going very badly if we don't take some kind of corrective action.
You paint a picture of what the outcomes might look like, because the future is uncertain. Like any predictions we make, it'll be slightly off. But what, like, again, there's a bunch of futures. If you had to boil it down to like a bear case, a base case, and a bull case, where in a bear case, like the models become public, the state level actors get access to it, and the cybersecurity industry does not respond effectively. Like base is sort of our current trajectory, and then best case is the opposite of the bear. Like we could talk about this for a while, but just at a high level, what do you think these scenarios look like? Maybe starting with the base case, or take it however.
Sure. Okay, so the base case is that actually attackers have never been constrained by the availability of bugs, and this increase in flaws that we can find in software actually doesn't do a lot, positive or negative. It just annoys a bunch of companies that have to patch their software more often. But like at the end of the day, the stuff that gets you shells on computers are like Safari exploits. And there's just a limited number of those. And there's a limited number that people can find and a limited number that they can exploit. And like, we're going to find a whole bunch of flaws in software that's never been truly inspected that much before. But will they really matter? I don't really know. So instead, we're just going to have this influx of bugs. Everybody's going to they're going to, dig a bunch of holes and fill them back in again.
That's for you guys. Yeah.
Not the business I want, but
yeah.
It's going to generate a lot of motion without a lot of results. That's I think the most likely outcome, right? In the bear case, which I'm sort of leaning. I mean, there's aspects of all these things that I think are likely to happen. In the bear case, you've got two things. First off, the availability of exploits for software is constrained by the people who can write exploits. So now that AI is available, it pushes down the bar for what is software I'm willing to write an exploit for. So now there's this whole big collection of software that has bugs that all of a sudden I have the ability to target, and I never did before. So the attack surface increases dramatically. The second thing is that during intrusions, part of why I respect North Korea's blockchain hacks so much is that they're able to change gears on the fly. They see the environment, they understand how to manipulate it to get what they want. And that ability to operate on their feet is something only a master operator really figures out. On the other hand, if you've got an LLM hooked up to your intrusion, a lot of things that it can find are, you can find company-specific, configuration-specific exploits for things that no other human would have seen and been able to target so quickly during an incident. So, it's almost like all these flaws, they become superficially discoverable and exploitable inside your company. And it means that all your security debt is coming due. And it means that companies have to respond at machine speed to these intrusions, because that LLM is going to be seeking out all these little opportunities, these chips in your armor, in order to further burrow itself into your company. And it's like, most managed service providers that are doing like external security detection stuff, they might have like a 1 hour SLA or like a 15-minute SLA. But now even 15 minutes, which is the gold standard, is not enough. I'd say another aspect of this too is, I think right now, this is something that a good friend of mine, Alex Stamos, has been doing a roadshow about. But there's really only a small number of companies in the world that are truly targeted by adversaries with zero day. Most people are going to get exploited by like password reuse and misconfigurations and like social engineering and that kind of stuff. But there's only a very small number of companies where they truly have to think about, what do I do if I get a Chrome day? But with the further proliferation of all these security flaws and the ability for people to write exploits that target them, many more companies will be subject to attacks that involve 0 days over the next 12 months. And that is something that none of them are prepared for. So I think, again, the next 12 months are going to be a critical time period for, are we coming out of this alive or not? And I think everybody's got to get their butts in gear and start paying down that debt before, we reach like September and there's an open source model you can download that's just as good as Mythos.
Got it. And I'm assuming the bull case would just be like an extreme version of the base case where there's a bunch of bugs, but very few / none of them are meaningful exploits that cause damage.
Yeah, I think the bull case is more like, have we deployed, like, I think in the medium term, the opportunity for defense for AI is way bigger than offense.
Really? I feel like that's maybe I don't know if, at least from a non-security people standpoint, I don't know if that's a common
I think talking point. Yeah. I think like AI is really good at pattern matching. That's the whole thing. And when you have a company that has all of its data available, maybe structured in some way, and you can feed it all into an AI system, your ability to find things that don't meet the pattern that are attacks is going to be tremendous. The problem is that like wiring that up is difficult, and a lot of companies want to buy a product that does it, and the products don't exist yet. So they have to be developed, then they have to go through purchasing, then they need to be installed, then they need to be tuned, and then they need to work. And that process takes a while. But there are a lot of control points that I think are easy to deploy into. Like, most of these attacks will involve Google Workspace. And like most of these, like, can the Windows Defender team like push something out that can have a tremendous impact on this? I think yes. So I do think it is possible. Like, defenders have home field advantage as well. Like, they understand what the environment is supposed to look like. They can create opportunities to fool people, to trick people. Canary tokens, great example of something where most people don't think about them as a first line defense, but I'll tell you, Trilobits is littered with them.
What is a
canary token? Is a juicy piece of data or some kind of callback that exists inside of data inside the company, where if an attacker collects it, tries to use it, moves it, changes it, whatever, it flags an alert. And these canary tokens, canary in the coal mine, no one's supposed to interact with them during normal usage, but they look indistinguishable from all the other data in the company. So it is an extremely high signal alert if any of them get tripped. And as an attacker, you don't know what data is real or not. You don't know what data is booby-trapped or not. You just try to, like, you're not an expert in the company. You're learning how the company works as you go. So these sorts of things can enable companies to respond to intrusions orders of magnitude faster than most other techniques. And that's just an example of like, hey, there are things that you can do where you can put the attacker on their back foot, because it's not a thing they can learn. It's not a thing that they can anticipate. They kind of just have to take a risk. Like, they stole all this data from you. What are they going to do with it? And that there's more things like that you can do.
Interesting. If you had a magic wand, what would you want? How would you prepare the world, like the American government, the world's government, it's like the companies in the world, to prepare in the next 6 months so that we have the best outcome? Like what would you? Is it like an education thing? Is it like a coordination issue? Like, what would you, if you had a magic wand, you could do anything outside of playing God? Like, what would you want to do?
I mean, I have a couple irons in the fire. The main thing is that like, attackers can easily adopt these technologies to write exploits and find bugs in software and write targeted phishing emails and set up infrastructure and, like, all that good stuff. And in order to be properly prepared to defend against it, you need to deploy this stuff with the same speed and rigor.
Yeah.
And what I really hope happens is that a lot of companies and a lot of open source software shifts to more of an AI native architecture as quick as possible. They need to have the tools to guide agents through their system and make changes to their code without breaking it. They need to have strong guardrails like tests and maybe even formal verification or linters and continuous integration pipelines and all these other systems that enable an agent to reliably check its work as it modifies your code. They need to deploy this stuff, and there's just no other way around it, or else you will be swamped. There will be thousands of reports that you get about flaws in your software. You won't be able to respond quickly enough, and you'll get buried. So it's really incumbent on developers of software to start thinking about how to rebuild it so that you can accommodate these agents taking over more of the development.
How does a company do that today?
We already do a lot of this stuff. Like the whole value prop for Trail of Bits is that we don't just fix software, or rather we don't just fix bugs, we fix software, right? Like we are trying to solve root cause problems. We're trying to fix your software development life cycle. I want you to get to the root cause of why does this bug exist and how do we prevent it from ever occurring again? And that's the same mindset that we need to really drill down and think of, like, I did this by hand. I never want to do it again. How do I train an agent to always operate the right way so that when I get a bug report and I need to push out a fix in an hour, I can delegate this to something that operates at machine speed? And you can't do that unless you invest in re-architecting your software to make it easier to understand from an agent perspective. I think especially a lot of people in the open source community, they're burned by agents. What they see from agents is they see people submitting issues and PRs that are slop, and they say, all this LLM stuff is garbage. Obviously, I don't want to use it. Everybody just uses it to harass people. It has no value whatsoever. And then you get this sense of identity of, like, I'm an amazing software developer. I've spent the last 20 years doing this. I am unique. Yeah. And the more unique you think you are, the less you think a machine can replace what you're doing. So that ends up being an obstacle that you need to get around. So I'll use every psychological trick in the book to get people to try it out and hopefully succeed so that they can benefit from this technology. And that's it. It's super dual use, right? And the attackers are adopting it. We need to also.
I'm excited to check back in a year to see where we're at, see where the industry's at. How has your experience been sort of applying AI internally at TrailBits?
Yeah, so I just gave a presentation about this at a conference called Unprompted. I will suggest that if people want the full story, it's a great video. I nailed that one, I think. But I faced a lot of obstacles for exactly the reason that I just described, that people at Trail of Bits are so good at what they do that you develop such a strong sense of identity that you don't believe that a machine is capable of doing it. Like, did the machine spend 20 years doing this? Like, no. Like, so how could it do it? And then what you do is humans are intolerant of machine failures. Like, if you use an LLM and it screws up one time, you do not go back to it. You immediately write it off. It'll take like 2 or 3 months to come back and give it another chance. So most people bail out pretty quickly when they see it go off the rails. We had to develop this entire system that got people on board with using AI for their jobs at Trail of Bits. And it was unexpected. Like, I faced an unexpected amount of resistance. People thought I was crazy. I really did not get a lot of warm fuzzies from people because it attacked their sense of identity. There needs to be a way to preserve the craft of what you're doing and think deeply about the problem and contribute that to solutions for the client, but while also delegating portions of that work to AI, the portions that are correct to delegate, not the whole thing, but like the portions where you could benefit the most. And threading that needle was an incredibly difficult process to go through. I think some of it was like, for the sense of identity, we wanted to reward people specifically for their contributions using AI. I didn't want to just say like, oh, you're really good at prompting. Like, that's not great. We ended up having skill development competitions, and I gave out awards to individual people that encoded their expertise into the company and enabled other people to use them. And then when some person across the company over on the research team uses a skill from a person over on the crypto team, they know where it came from. And the author, they get a big identity boost because now everybody thanks them like, oh my God, this skill is amazing. I used it to do these incredible things. And it's a conversation that never would have happened because that one individual cryptographer can't be present in 20 projects at one time. They get to scale out their expertise. Other things are we had to make guardrails. Like I spent a lot of time figuring out what is the right configuration of something like Claude Code or Codex for Trail of Bits. Because I don't want everybody's first experience with it to be slamming it into a wall and having it go on fire. We had to figure out how do we ensure success to the highest degree possible on first use from these tools. So I spent a lot of time researching that and digging into it myself. And then I shared those out. And now we have a great onboarding because people join Trail of Bits and we say, this is the Trail of Bits way of using Claude Code. And just like Trail of Bits always does, we publish that. You can go on GitHub. It's our Claude Code config repo. And that's literally our onboarding guide. But through a lot of these exercises, we did hackathons every other month. We had the competitions. We started rewarding people for their use of AI during company town halls. We did lots of show and tells. Eventually, it changed a lot of people's minds about what was possible and how it could be additive and not subtractive of their work environment. That now we're in a really great space to be leaders at applying it, to understanding where it works and where it doesn't, and to educate our clients about how to use it. I think we're trying to get to a place where we're an AI native company and we can do these things with AI as kind of a coworker instead of a co-pilot. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we do the right thing for the client. And we have it's one tool among many. And we're not ditching algorithmic tools like static analyzers and compilers and fuzzers and everything else have a really strong place in our tool set. But AI is absolutely the most exciting new opportunity that we have available. And I want to make sure that Trail of Bits is first when we try and use it with our clients.
I'm curious what you think the impact on jobs will be, because with engineering, it's obviously hugely impacted. Maybe it's like an excuse for some of these companies, but it's hugely impacted like engineer hiring, especially with new grads. I don't know if you've seen this example with like radiology, but people are like, oh, doctors are, and there's actually like way more demand for radiology because they can use AI to get through more scans and have way more customers as a result. With security, like where on the spectrum, like where do you think it falls? How do you think in 5, 10, 20 years, as the models continue to get better, like will there still be security researchers? If so, what do they do?
Yeah, I think there's going to be huge growth in cybersecurity. Huge growth. Like for a variety of reasons. Right now, the whole field is constrained on access to talent. You've got a lot of people that are writing code, and they're lucky if they get to speak to a qualified security engineer for 3 days a year when the Trail of Bits consultants show up on site and we're like, hey guys, what do you need? That's your only opportunity to get questions answered. Now you can go ask Claude or Codex or whatever, and you can get some immediate feedback. That's fantastic. That means that our job gets a little bit easier, but now we get to think about bigger picture items. We get to think about security architecture, attack surface, software development lifecycle. But also the problem size has grown. Like today, if you hack into a computer, you maybe have some tokens you can use to like navigate to another system, and you can do this island hopping thing until you get to the sensitive info. I like shudder to think about the attacks of the future where I can coerce an agent inside your company to now operate on my behalf, because those agents are usually plugged into everything. They operate at machine speed. They can try and have errors and recover to get to what you want. Like you're just going to be able to flip some machine speed system inside of a company to now operate on behalf of an attacker, and the damage it'll cause is huge. And these are all probabilistic systems. They're things that don't operate the same on every input. You can run it twice with the same input and it gives you 2 different results, which is something that I don't think a lot of security engineers today are really educated to think about. So this is a whole wide world of brand new attacks that are much more severe. And at the same time, you've got these developers that finally have access to like an ounce of security knowledge and information, they're going to want more. They're going to write more code. They're going to need more help. They're going to get that 10% boost from having a chatbot that can answer them. But yeah, so like I think we're fine.
Yeah.
I really think we're fine. And like that's software security. We've also got all the crypto stuff that's coming down the pipe. A lot of people want to understand formal verification. You know, I think a lot about software development with an agent as iterative spec development. Like when you're prompting and then reprompting and then reprompting to try to get the code to look like what you want, what you're really doing is you're iterating on a spec, even though you don't call it that. And ultimately, what you truly want is you want a formalized definition of what you're trying to build. So this is, again, it's a whole nother field where I think Trail of Bits is perfectly positioned to help people, where we have the kind of research backing to be able to connect the dots on that, where we can do better than just these ad hoc prompts. We can help provide guardrails and help you reliably build software with agents that that you can trust. So yeah, that like, I think that's the big question with AI. Like it's probabilistic, so how do I trust it? And answering that question is going to require a lot of people that have really good cybersecurity skills.
I want to ask about an incident that you're particularly proud of, like as well as one maybe where you felt like you guys learned a lot or felt you could have done better. And it's, I guess, happy to start with whichever one you want. Maybe an
incident.
Yeah, it could be an incident. It could be like a research thing. It could be just something where you feel it's an interesting story and elicited strong emotions either way.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the defining parts of Trail of Bits happened in 2016 when there was a terrorist attack in San Bernardino, and there was an iPhone that was recovered from this crazy guy. And the FBI wanted Apple to unlock it, and Apple said, technically not possible. Like, we've done everything we can to make sure that can't happen because we protect our users' privacy. And it turned into this big national fight, and Apple was going to get out of it because the technical analysis wasn't rigorous enough, and people took it on their word that they couldn't do it. So I sat down with Artem Dynaberg from our team, and we wrote a blog post that day. I stayed up till 4 a.m. until I put the final touches on it. And we said, yes, they can. It is technically possible. And we described why we believed at the time that it was technically possible. And we were right, why it was technically possible. And that blog post changed the entire national conversation around iPhone encryption. I got calls from about 30 reporters the next morning. I ended up running a webinar where I had to educate them all about iOS security. And the conversation after that wasn't, is this technically possible? It's, should we allow it? From a public policy perspective, is this the right thing to do for the country? And I think that really demonstrated something about Trail of Bits, that we tell the truth. We offer our technical authority to solve problems in a non-emotional way. Like, I want to get to a place where people have the right information to make decisions. And that was something that only we could offer and that only we did offer at that time. I think we've done that a couple of times through the past of the company. You know, I did it. Yeah, if you look at all the most consequential parts of Trail of Bits history, this comes up time and time again. I did it once with this report called the Verizon DBIR. I did it with Time AI at Black Hat, where I got thrown out of the conference for yelling at some guy. That's a fun one. Short version. Okay, so back, I think it was 2019. 2019. There's this talk in the lineup at Black Hat.
Yeah.
And it looks...
Just for people that don't know, Black Hat's like the quintessential security conference that everyone goes to.
It's the big one.
It's the big one.
It's the big one.
Famous.
It's in Las Vegas. There's two of them. There's Black Hat and DEF CON. Black Hat is like more corporate. DEF CON is more hackerish. We go to both every year. You know, it's a pilgrimage. It's like 20,000 people. It's huge. But we saw in the lineup, there's this talk, and it looks like performance art. It's like, we're using the power of music and AI in order to break all encryption, and we have a solution that we're going to offer at Black Hat. Come see our talk. I'm like, this is crazy. I was hanging out with my friend JP Amasan. He's a famous cryptographer. Wrote a great book. Definitely go check out his books from No Starch. Fantastic author. But we're like, we got to see this. We got to go. It's going to be so funny. So we sit down in the audience, and like, I'm listening to this guy talk, and none of it makes any sense. He's like talking about well-known mathematical algorithms and just dressing them up in really sophisticated language and graphics. And, me and JP are having a laugh in the back row, and we look around and everybody's like rapt with attention. They're like eating it up. And we're like, what is going on here? Like, are we not in on the joke? Like, is this what's going on? And eventually I realized that like, no, actually this guy is just, trying to get money from all the people in the audience by offering this fake snake oil. And the speaker slot that he got was paid for. He paid like, $100,000 or whatever to get this speaker slot. Like, nobody actually reviewed his talk. He's just showing up and he's using our platform, our hacker conference, in order to rip off a bunch of people in the audience. And the people in the audience can't tell the difference. And it got me so mad that at the end of the talk, I kept it inside. And at the end of the talk, I got so mad. I was like, I raised my hand for a question. I'm like, screw this. I just got up and I just started yelling at him. And I'm like, you're like, Black Hat's going to take all this down. Like, none of this is right. All this stuff is fake. And it was so funny. There's this guy, there's this short 30-second clip of me doing this. Some guy turns around. He's like, who the hell are you? Trying to ask me, like, what are my credentials? Because this guy has so many of them. And I'm like, I run a cryptography team. I was just mad. I was just mad and I was angry about it. But I made such a stink about it. I made such a spectacle out of it that it became this major media story in 2019. And it got this guy, I think it's Graham something, whatever. It got him run out of the security industry. Yeah. Like, it was such a big pushback. It was the first time he ever tried to do this trick. He does this trick in all kinds of other fields. He has like 20 different companies. All of them are trying to rip people off. And we ran him out of town. And we did that because I got care mad. Yeah. And some of the best moments of Trail of Bits history are when I get care mad about something being technically incorrect, where I have the solution and I want to tell you what it is and you need to know. So those are all funny stories for Trail of Bits.
And is there a incident, or it doesn't have to be an incident, or it could just be like a learning, if you don't want to go into specifics, on something you guys have changed over time where you maybe made a mistake, or
I mean, most of my mistakes are organizational. Like, I am a computer scientist. I have no business being a CEO. I think part of my success at this role is that knowing that I don't know everything. And I treat it really seriously. Like, I understand what the goal is. The goal is to make the best environment for the top hackers in the world to succeed, right? So clarity of goal helps a lot. But like, personally, my failures have been around how to trust other people with that vision. I am on like executive team version 3 at this point, where company passes like 50 people in size, like, oh shoot, I guess I better get some help in here. Yeah. And the evolutions of the help that I have brought in have been predictable in retrospect, but were traumatic going through it. Yeah. You bring in people that have the right skills, but the wrong culture, and they screw up the company. Then you bring in people that have the right culture and the wrong skills. They screw up the company. Then you start to figure out, okay, here's the team I actually need to build. And it's impossible to find them. And then you have these huge gaps in the org chart where things just don't get done, but the company's growing anyway because we're doing excellent work and clients want to hire us. And now we're blocked on not having access to the talent that we need at the leadership level. That stuff has driven me like off a cliff. I obviously I put a lot of weight on my shoulders. I take it really personally. But I think for a long time, I didn't ask for help. And then once I did start asking for help, I listened too much. And there's a balance there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, fun fact about me, I'm like enrolled in Harvard Business School now, which is never where I expected to be.
Yeah.
And that has helped me.
But you're like taking classes right now.
I'm taking classes in September. So I'm in this program called OPM, which is purpose made for CEOs. You do 3 weeks a year for 3 years. So it's 9 weeks total. You study about 150 cases. You go to class. I live in a dorm. I go there.
Wow. Okay.
And I get I sleep on a twin bed in a 100 square foot room and go to class from like 7 a.m. to like 6 p.m. every day.
Wow.
6 days a week. And then I go back to work. But like there was a time, like I applied for that when I was really just desperate for what am I doing wrong? Like I'm succeeding at all the technical stuff. My clients love me. Engineers love me, but I can't get the help that I need to actually run the business, which is crazy. Like I joined one of these CEO peer groups back in 2022, 23, 8 CEOs, you meet once a month, off the record, 3 hours with a facilitator. And I would always show up. I'd be like stressed out of my mind. I hadn't slept. I'm like, guys, I can't make my company work. And they would all just eviscerate me because every other guy in the group was like, I had to riff 40% of my company this week. My business is failing. My board hates me. I'm going to get fired. I'm like, guys, I grew 30% last year and I can't hire a head of HR that believes in my mission. And it was just, they all just fucking hated me. But honestly, like that's been the hardest part about growing Trail of Bits. Like I solved what everyone else thinks is the hard part, which is delivering excellent work reliably and building customers. Like I had one measure of success for me is my customers feel like they have to work to be my clients. Weird statement. I had a customer of ours, this guy Filippo. Filippo maintains the Go crypto library. And we did an audit for him with the best cryptographers on my team, and we hardly found any bugs. We found like 1 bug, which is crazy. That almost never happens. So what did he do? He printed a t-shirt that said, I survived a Trail of Bits audit. And then he went to a conference and delivered a talk about his crypto library with the shirt on, like proud that we put him through a meat grinder and he came out alive. That I think is really unique for Trail of Bits. Means we're doing something special. So I was able to do that. But the things that I'm failing at are the things that I think everybody else knows how to do well. And that's been hard to rectify about myself the last few years. I keep thinking I'm the dumbest guy on the planet or the smartest guy on the planet. I'm not sure.
Have there been other people or places you've looked to for advice, for help? I think the business school stuff, I'm sure there's stuff that you can take away, but any other sources?
So hard because I think so many companies are okay with mediocrity. They negotiate themselves out of doing an excellent job. Like all the other consulting companies, they're like, hey, we found 20 bugs. Is 20 bugs good or is 20 bugs bad? I'm not sure. Like if we found 21, is it excellent? I don't think so. Or if we found 19, is that still good? Like probably. But with Trail of Bits, we hold ourselves to a fundamentally different standard. And few other companies on the planet have the just have it in them to do that. So the kind of the places that I look for inspiration are really hard to find. Like I looked at like the early OpenAI org chart, or like I respect Galois, another like formal verification Haskell-y kind of government contractor, or I look at Immunity, the most hackerish of hacker firms that ever existed. But none of them are quite like Trail of Bits.
Yeah. Have you considered like exec coaches or folks?
Oh, I've had one.
I've had one.
It's actually really helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was funny. Back in like 2020, 2021, I was going through a little bit of a personal rough patch. I hired a therapist with an MBA and an executive coach with a social work degree. And that was pretty helpful. The executive coach I'm still working with, she's phenomenal. Not going to tell anybody who she is because
It's alpha.
Yeah, that's alpha. I need to be able to continue to see her. But yeah, it's been really good. I think as you get deeper, as you grow into a role like CEO, it becomes lonelier and lonelier. There's a lot less people that you're able to talk to. Like especially, part of my role as like culture leader for the company is also handling exceptions to that. It's like making decisions around who to hire and fire, or handling really just difficult people challenges, and you can't speak openly about that stuff. It's very isolating, and at this point, I really have to curate a little bit. Like, I want to be that player coach, and I want to be that engineer. I want to be that technical leader that other people in the company aspire to maybe be like. But there's a whole other section of the role that is really just for me alone. And that's really what I need the coach for, because I don't have a board. Thank God, actually, I don't have a board. I would have nobody else to go to.
Last question to maybe finish with. From our conversation, there's this name Mudge that comes up over and over again. Like, he sort of worked with him. He was a PM at DARPA, first government contract. Shutdown happens. He's source of your first sort of private contract as well. Like, I know a little bit about him. Like, he's sort of well known. He has a Wikipedia page, but like, who is this guy?
We go back to my hacker lure before, where I talked about at stake. If you go one step back, that's where Mudge starts. There was a group of Boston-based hackers that formed what was effectively like the first hacker lab called the Loft.
Yeah.
And Mudge became sort of like the unofficial spokesperson for them. There's these really great photos of him testifying before Congress about how they could take down the internet. But, that sort of mentality is the same that we try to have for Trilobits today. I know there's a direct line path, went from Loft to at stake to ISEC partners to Trilobits. So I'm like still inspired by the stuff they did back in the 90s. Go even further back, we could talk about 8LGM and like TISO and all these other hacker groups. But yeah, Mudge really set the standard for a lot of that, for a lot of how the industry works today, and continues to have really big ideas and finds ways to attach himself to organizations that lets him explore them. So from DARPA to Motorola to Google, to Stripe. I forget where he's at now, but he always like finds a place willing to entertain his big ideas and takes a shot at them.
Well, on that note, Dan, really appreciate you taking the time today. And yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.